want to talk to you about how to use an online dictionary to look up words that you are unfamiliar with and that I do not include in the glossary that I make for you, because that may happen. So this is my preferred online dictionary. It's the Leo Online Dictionary, and I'll put a link to it. Many times when you look up a word, it's really straightforward and easy. So if I needed to look up elephant, so this is an obvious one, but I see here der Elefant. This is the German side. This is the English side, and I see that it's an elephant. In bold is the word that I looked up, and this will always be English. This will always be German. Do I really need to look up a word like elephant? No, because it's pretty clear. It's also a very concrete thing. So I can picture in my head what an elephant is, and an elephant is an elephant no matter what word I use to describe it. However, there are other words that may have different connotations to it depending on how we use it or depending on what language it's in. And that's when looking something up in a dictionary is pretty important to not just look at the very first thing you see and take that to be the meaning. So for example, I'm going to put in schwer. So here I see a whole bunch of schwers, because schwer could have a lot of different translations depending on the sentence that it's used in. Over here in English, I see this big old list. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top, because at the top is the words that are going to be more likely to be the right one. And I'm just going to read through the first 5 to 10 of them. Difficult, hard, heavy, big, severe, grave, badly, heavily, massive. Okay, so the word schwer doesn't necessarily have an English word that has all of the exact same meanings as the German word does. However, when I look at this list of English meanings, I can get a sense of what the word schwer means. It has something to do with being big, heavy, difficult. Then I can look at the sentence that I see schwer in, and I can read that sentence and I might translate it using one of those words, big, heavy, difficult, hard, or I might just read the sentence knowing that schwer means something along those lines and not really need to translate it for myself because I figured out kind of the feeling of what that word is. A lot of times that's what we're going for. So let's try another one. Let's try weg. All right, this one's interesting because up here I see weg and I also see weg down here. What's the difference? Here I notice that these are capitalized and they're all ders. So I know that these are nouns, Substantiva here. You see the title? That means nouns in German. Here I've got the nouns, path, a way, a route, an alley, a driveway. So it's like something that's leading me somewhere, right? A path, a route, a lane, a road, something like that. Okay? But if I scroll down, I can see it's also used as an adjective or an adverb. In German, adjectives and adverbs are often the same word, whereas in English we typically have different words for those things if it's describing a noun or describing a verb. Here I see weg meaning off or away or missing. Okay. Then I see some phrases that have weg in them. Im Weg is underfoot, like in the way. Weg von is off. Weit weg means a long way off or far away. And it might be that when I was reading, what I really saw was the phrase weit weg. Here I see the phrase weit weg and I get the whole phrase translated for me. Awesome. I love it when that happens. If I go further down, I see some verbs and I see how weg is used with different verbs. So if I happen to see weg being used with a certain verb, I could check here to see if they can translate the whole phrase for me. Here's even more phrases and some more examples. So this is a really rich resource in terms of figuring out what does weg mean in the context that I'm seeing it. Most likely I will be able to find on this page the context I'm seeing it in, or a pretty good understanding of how that word can be used that I can then apply to whatever I was reading. Let's try another one. just for fun, what if we do, I just open the book to a random page, and I'm going to say selbst. All right, so we start off with adjectives and adverbs. It'll just put at the top whatever's kind of more likely to be what you're looking for. I get even or in person. Those seem kind of different to me, so I'm just going to kind of scroll through the rest of the page and see if I can get a better sense or a better feel for this word selbst. Selbstgemacht is like homemade. I see self-appointed, self-inflicted, self-imposed, the self. Home-baked bread. Oh, and here I get a whole bunch of selbst. Okay, so I see it's always referring to the self. So if I go back to the sentence that I read it in, oh, where'd it go? It was what said, Was willst du denn? Sagt zu sich selbst. Okay, so since I know that selbst here is talking about oneself, I'm going to imagine that the sentence means, what do you want then? He says to himself. So, talking to himself. That's how selbst is used in this context. A couple of other things that I want to point out. If you need to type in a word that has an umlaut and you do not have an international keyboard set up or anything like that, the way that you write the words without an umlaut is that you do the vowel that actually has the umlaut on it and then an E. So if I was writing, oh, sorry, I've got my German keyboard turned off. Let's see. Okay, German keyboard turned on. All right, so if I were trying to write this word, schön, but I didn't have the ability to put in the umlaut easily, I would write it like this. So instead of doing the O umlaut, you can see I did O-E. If I were to write, I'm trying to think of a word, Mittelstürmer, okay, without the umlaut, I would write Mittelstürmer. To me, it looks pretty funny to not have the umlaut on there, but that might just be because I'm really used to having the umlaut there. And same thing, if I were trying to write this, I would write it like that. Okay? So if you need to do that, it's an easy way to get around not having the umlaut available. What else? It's possible that you might find a compound word. You know, German is chock full of compound words. And it might be that if you type in the word like Banknachbar, you might not really get much. This part down here, the Forumsdiskussionen, the discussion forums, probably are not going to be all that helpful to you right now. A lot of them are, it's just like a discussion forum, but a lot of it's written in German. So you might, like this one says, einer der in der Schule neben einem sitzt. You might be able to understand that. One who in the school next to one sits. It's the person who sits next to you in school. But if you have trouble with that, what I would do is I would look at this word and I would see if I could search the individual words. So let's start with Nachbar. I search Nachbar, I get, okay, neighbor. This one seems pretty straightforward, clear-cut, neighbor. What about Bank? Oh, okay, so in this one, I see sometimes the bolded word Bank is over here with the German words, and sometimes it's over here on the left with the English words. But since I'm looking up a German word, I need to make sure that I'm looking at the lines that have the German word in bold. So I see that Bank can mean a bench or a bank or a plate in a technical sense. That's tech, it's technical. Here's financial. All right, bench and bank, those seem pretty different, but the word Bank in German really can be either bench, like the kind you sit on, or a bank, like where you put your money. However, if the word is Banknachbar, do I think that would be a bench neighbor or a bank neighbor? Maybe it could be both. In that case, I would return to the context of the word in the book and see which of those makes more sense in the sentence where I am reading it. I think that is everything for right now. If you have any questions about how to use Leo, feel free to ask me. The biggest thing that I just want to make sure you understand is to not just look at the very first thing that pops up and say, oh, this must mean bench, because maybe it does. But reading through the list of words that it could be translated as will give you a much better sense of what that German word really